Hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel. Hope in this video you won't get any background noise. In this video I am going to talk about chapter 5 and a poem in this chapter. So basically it is an audiobook, so I will speak as it is and try my best. So let's start. Chapter 5: The Snake and the Mirror. Before you read, do you like to look at yourself in the mirror? What do you think about at such times? Have you ever seen a dog, a cat, or a bird look into a mirror? What do you think it sees? Second, now read this humorous story about a doctor, a snake, and a mirror. First, has a snake ever coiled itself around any part of your body? A fully blooded cobra? All of us feel silent. The question came from the homeopath. The topic came up when we were discussing snakes. We listened attentively as the doctor continued with his tale. It was a hot summer night, about 10 o'clock. I had my meal at the restaurant and returned to my room. I heard a noise from above as I opened the door. The sound was a familiar one. One could say that the rats and I shared the room. I took out my box of matches and lighted the kerosene lamp on the table. Second, the house was not electrified. It was a small rented room. I just I had just set up medical practice and my earnings were March. I had about 60 rupees in my suitcase, along with some shirts and dhotis. I also possessed one solitary black coat which I was then wearing. Third, I took off my black coat, white shirt, and not so white vest and hung them up. I opened the two windows in the room. It was an outer room with one wall facing the open yard. It had a tiled roof with long supporting gables that rested on the beam over the wall. There were no ceiling. There was a regular traffic of rats to and from the beam. I made my bed and pulled it close to the wall. I lay down, but I could not sleep. I got up and went out to the veranda for a little air, but the wind god seemed to have taken time off. Fourth, I went back into the room and sat down on the chair. I opened the box beneath the table and took out a book, the Materia Medica. I opened it at the table the lamp on which stood the lamp and a large mirror. A small comb lay beside the mirror. One feels tempted to look into a mirror when it is near one. I took a look. In those days, I was a great admirer of beauty and I believed in making myself look handsome. I was unmarried and I was a doctor. I felt I had to make my presence felt. I picked up the comb and ran it through my hair and adjusted the parting so that it looked straight and neat. Again, I heard that sound from above. Fifth, I took a close look at my face in the mirror. I made an important decision. I would shave daily and grow a thin moustache to look more handsome. I was, after all, a bachelor and a doctor. I looked into the mirror and smiled. It was an attractive smile. I made another earth shaking decision. I would always keep that attractive smile on my face to look more handsome. I was, after all, a bachelor and a doctor too. On top of it, again came that noise from above. 6. I got up, paced up and down the room. Then another lovely thought struck me. I would marry. I would get married to a woman doctor who had plenty of money and a good medical practice. She had to be fat for valid reason. If I made some silly mistake and needed to run away, she should not be able to run after me and catch me. With such thoughts in my mind, I resumed my seat in the chair in front of the table. There were no more sounds from the above. Suddenly, there came a dull thud as if a rubber tube had fallen to the ground. Surely nothing to worry about. Even so, I thought I would turn around and take a look. No sooner had I turned than a fat snake wriggled over the back of the chair and landed on my shoulder. The snake's landing on me and my turning were simultaneous. Seventh, I didn't jump, I didn't tremble, I didn't cry out. There was no time to do such thing. The snake slithered along my shoulder and coiled around my left arm from above the elbow. The hood was spread out and its head was hardly 3 or 4 inches from my face. It would not be correct to say merely that I sat there holding my breath. I was turned to stone, but my mind was very active. The door opened into darkness. The room was surrounded by darkness. In the light of the lamp, I sat there like a stone image in the flesh. 8. I felt then a great presence of the creator of this world and this universe. God was there. Suppose I said something and he did not like it. I tried in my imagination to write in bright letters outside my little heart the words, "Oh God." There was some pain in my left arm. It was as if a thick unladen rod, no, a rod made of molten fire, was slowly but powerfully crushing my arm. The arm was beginning to be drained of all strength. What could I do? Ninth. At my slightest movement, the snake would strike me. Death lurked 4 inches away. Suppose it struck. What was the medicine I had to take? There were no medicines in the room. I was but a poor, foolish, and stupid doctor. I forgot my danger and smiled feebly at myself. It seemed as if God appreciated that. The snake turned its head. It looked into the mirror and saw its reflection. I do not claim that it was the first snake that had ever looked into a mirror, but it was certain that the snake was looking into the mirror. Was it admiring its own beauty? Was it trying to make an important decision about growing a mousse or using eyeshadow and mascara or wearing a vermilion spot on its forehead? 10. I did not know anything for certain. What sex was this snake? Was it male or female? I will never know, for the snake unbound itself from my arm and slowly slithered into my lap. From there it crept onto the table and moved towards the mirror. Perhaps it wanted to enjoy its reflection at closer quarters. I was no merry image cut in granite. I was suddenly a man of flesh and blood. Still holding my breath, I got up from the chair. I quietly went out through the door into the veranda. From there, I leapt into the yard and ran for all I was worth. Phew! Each of us heaved a sigh of relief. Somebody asked, "Doctor, is your wife very fat?" 11th. No, the doctor said, "God willed otherwise. My life companion is a thin, ready person with the gift of sprinter." Someone else asked, "Doctor, when you ran, did the snake follow you?" The doctor replied, I ran and ran till I reached a friend's house. Immediately I smeared oil over myself and took a bath. I changed into fresh clothes. The next morning about 8:30 I took my friend and one or two others to my room to move things from there. But we found we had a little to carry. Some thief had removed most of my things. The room had been cleaned out, but not really. The thief has left behind one thing as final insult. 12th. What was that? I asked. The doctor said, my vest, the dirty one. The fellow had such a sense of cleanliness. The rascal could have taken it and used it after washing it with a soap and water. Did you see the snake the next day, doctor? The doctor laughed. I have never seen it since. It was a snake which was taken with its own beauty. By Vekom Muhammad Basir. Translated from the Malayalam by V. Abdullah. Now let's go to the poem. Poem A Legend of the Northland. This poem narrates the legend of an old lady who angered Saint Peter because of her greed. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through, where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges where it snows, and the children look like bear cubs in their funny furry clothes. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe it's true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching, just as he did, he came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them to the hearth, and being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. So she made a very little cake, but as its baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Therefore she needed another, and still a smaller one, but it looked, when it turned it over, as large as first had done. Then she took a tiny scrap of duff and rolled it flat and baked it thin as wafer. But she couldn't part with that. For she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. And he said, you are far too foolish to dwell in human form, to have both food and shelter, and fire to keep you warm. Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard dry wood. Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to bird. She had scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned, black as a coal in the flame. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees, till this very day. Boring and Boring for Food. Poem by Phoebe Carey. A ballad is a song narrating a story in short stanzas. Ballads are a part of folk culture or popular cultures and are passed on orally from one generation to the next. A legend of the Northland is a ballad. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.